Hey everyone, it is your favorite CEO, Miss Flo, and welcome to another episode of Neon Mike where the conversation just glows. I'm here at the last day of AwesomeCon and I am just exploring the comic book and indie scene right now. I have a very special guest with me. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, my name is Vandel. I'm an artist and writer, and yeah, I have a couple of mangas published, and we're going to talk about them today.
Yes, and let me just hold up so you could just see the art and quality right here. Can you tell us about this particular manga here?
This is Note. It starts on D-Day, which stands for Debtor's Day, the day where people have to pay their debt to a tyrannical government, but if they don't, they lose their souls. And so the main character's tired of this happening and wants to get everyone out of debt, but first wants to get himself out of debt. So he saves up his money over many years, but one day before D-Day happens, all of his funds vanish. So he has one night to figure out what happened so he can get himself out of debt, everyone out of debt, and stop D-Day from happening.
Oh, wow. It sounds like the main character was set up as soon as he was trying to, expose what's going on. What made you want to come up with this manga?
So honestly, it was my first one that I've ever made, and really it was for a contest. And so I wanted to do it. It was for the Shonen Jump contest. It was only like a 4-month period where I had to make this and create it. I didn't win the contest, but I actually was able to make something, and I was very proud. And it continued allowing me to make more mangas going forward.
Well, that's great. I mean, it sucks that you didn't win because it looks absolutely amazing, and I feel like the plot is very relatable to what a lot of people are experiencing in this country. There's a lot of people are in debt, whether it is from college loans or just medical bills and things like that. Have you ever had personal experience with debt or know people who with debt?
Too many, too much. Help me. Help me grab a copy. But really though, I think it's relevant to the times, and everyone can relate to what that is, how that is. And I think that's why I think at the heart of the story, you feel for the characters because you can be in that situation as well.
That's very true. And you also have another one. You said this is your new release.
No, this one.
Which one?
Yeah.
So this is your new release.
Yeah. So this is Infinity Love debuting this weekend at AwesomeCon, and it is my first series ever. So it starts on Blossom Day, a day where basically you have to pick someone to love for the rest of your life. And if you can't find someone on that day, you get turned into a monster. And so there are two characters who have problems with love. There's Heart, who has all the love in the world to give, but receives none of it at all. And then we have Lily, who gets all of the love in the world, but doesn't believe any of it is genuine. And so Heart loves Lily and does something forbidden to bring the both of them together. And so they end up creating a curse that destroys all of the love in the world. And so now they have to work together to reclaim that love before everyone turns into monsters before the next Blossom Day.
That's a very unique take on a romance novel. It's very adventurous, and it seems there's high stakes involved. What made you want to come up with this idea?
So funny enough, this was the first book I was supposed to make before I made Note. So when I was making Note, it was the right amount of pages, but this had too many pages for the competition, so I had to scrap it. So I made a promise to myself that I was going to come back and do the thing, make sure I finish whatever it is that I started. So that's how this came to be. And, I think everyone can relate to love because we've all been in love or felt some type of feelings towards someone, whether big or small. And sometimes those stakes can feel just as crazy as the world ending and everyone turning into beasts.
Wow, and just based on your premise, I feel like nowadays a lot of people probably end up turning into monsters because the dating scene is just not it right now.
Yeah, no, I feel for everyone. I feel for everyone. It's hard out here, so I think everyone will love the story. It resonates. It's got a lot of action. It's got a lot of heartbreak, and I have insane plans for it going forward.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that you are continuing with your manga journey. I know this is a funny story. We've been bumping into each other at a couple of cons, but could never find the time to really sit down and do this. So I'm really glad that I was able to come through today and speak with you because you're making such amazing work that's relatable. and I wish you all the success. Where can everybody find you?
So you can find me anywhere: Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, at Vandel Marchen, or on vandelmarchen.com. That's VANDELMARCHEN. And yeah, I'll catch y'all. Thank you so much for this interview, by the way.
And no problem. And make sure that you follow his page because you started to give advice in terms of like how to create your own manga and get yourself self-published. So you're really giving back to the community, which I really do appreciate. So make sure you follow the page, get that insight, and see how you guys glow from this conversation. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Corey Taylor, the creator of Dark Child Studios. I have several comics. I have Copycat and the Bomb Squad, and my new comic is The Black Death.
Ooh, nice. Can you explain like what is Copycat Bob Squad?
Okay, Copycat and the Bomb Squad. It's a character that I always wanted to do. I created her when I was in high school. And I love Storm from the X-Men, but she was a background character. So I wanted to do a female character that could do things like Wolverine. Like, have all the freedom. She could be, in one book, she could be a good guy, she could be a bad guy, she could have freedom. Because, I was tired of black characters being in the background. And like writers were like scared to really let them cut loose. So that's when I did Copycat. I wanted her to be a character that cut loose. And also with my character, the Black Death. He's a runaway slave who learns that they hang him, they catch him and they hang him, but he finds out that he's immortal, he can't die. So he comes back and he becomes a kind of like like Django Unchained with superpowers.
Oh.
It's kind of like a Punisher type character where it's a revenge story, but he's also a hero.
Nice. That's very interesting. I love the fact that you started out in high school because I have scholars that love to doodle, that are just great artists that have a lot of potential. And just to think like you were able to create some amazing content to the point of like publication just to follow your passion. Like who was your who inspired you to draw?
Oh, I had a cousin that drew. I had an older cousin that drew all the time, and I saw all the work that he did. So he got me into drawing. But I drew all through high school, but I joined the military. But I couldn't draw. I wanted to be an artist, but the military gave me a good deal. So they give you a better job. So I was in the Air Force for 22 years, and I never found the time to really draw. But when I retired, that's when I got back into it.
Well, one, thank you for your service. And I also find it funny that you were in the Air Force because we have Tuskegee Airs right next door to you. So it's like, that's interesting. I'm just to sit here and just like really admire it, like what you're doing because we talked about representation all the time on my channel and that we don't see enough of it. And I appreciate that you're bringing these superpowered characters, or black superpowered characters, to the forefront and just letting them let loose. Because I do see what you're saying. A lot of times they're restricted, or we are the sidekick, or the best friend, or you know what I mean, or like a supporting role as opposed to being the lead. What are some other work that you have here? You mentioned quite a few.
Oh, also I have the Artists Unite book. I did this to support Black Lives Matter.
Oh.
So I contacted all the different artists I knew all over the world. I got guys from the Philippines, Japan, Germany, Ireland that donated artwork for Black Lives Matter. So it has artwork. I have tattoo artists, even spoken word. There's a lot of poetry in here, a lot of stuff from the different high school kids. So I got from all over the world.
Oh, you can raise it up to.
Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. That's really nice. And I just appreciate like you did like a mixed medium. Like it didn't have to be like a visual artist. Like it'd be written word.
Yeah.
So it's very inclusive. I'm sorry. I'm just in awe in this because it just shows like the power of art and how it could like truly send a message.
Yes. Because when I do my art, I don't just think of myself. I think of myself when I was a little kid, and I want people to encourage other people and other artists to follow your dream. Because Copycat was something I created back when I was like 17 years old, and I never gave up on the character. I just kept adding to it and adding to it, and that's what I want other artists to do. Like just because you don't see representation, create it yourself. That's what's important. Create it yourself. Because I always wanted not just to see black characters on the screen, but I want them to have powerful stories. And that's what I see. It's almost like some writers are afraid to really take a black character and put them in a complex situation, because you always see like a black character's doing the safe thing.
Right.
But you see other characters, they can do all kind of crazy stuff and have a redemption arc and come back and still be a good guy. But you don't really see those complex stories for black superheroes. And that's what I want to see. That's what I'm hoping we get more chances. Like even with with Marvel and their TV shows, you still don't see it. I want to see what I want to see is a good black villain.
Ooh,
That's
yeah.
what I want to see. I want to see a black villain that's just evil.
Right.
Because, like you could have other characters of other races, they can be evil. And totally, it's like almost like they're afraid to really. I want to see a black character that's got some meat on their story.
Yeah, and I feel like any black character or black villain they had is very short lived.
Yes.
Yet Kane was still up in the wind. Killmonger was gone after the first movie.
Yep.
So yeah, I get what you're saying. It's just like there's no longevity with the black villains they incorporate. Black Manta.
Didn't he die?
It's a question mark.
Yeah.
We saw him. Spoiler alert. We saw him fall.
Yeah.
But sometimes the fall doesn't always mean they're gone.
Yeah.
But I totally get what you're saying. It's just like we have the potential to really be. We need a black kingpin,
Yes.
because
Yes.
he should
I
have
agree.
died
I
a
agree.
few times, but he's still he's in the MCU. So we need to find a black villain that has the same potential or the same character arc. So I
agree.
totally agree with you on
And
that.
I want an original character.
I agree,
want an
'cause-
original character. I don't want them to make somebody change their color or change their race. I want an original character. And I think that's something that we need.
And you're doing the work to actually make that happen, because we keep seeing remakes and reboots, prequels and things like that. They just milk a franchise to death. So I think we're in an era where we want to see new stories on the big and small screen.
Yes.
So my fingers crossed that somebody picked this up.
Yeah, that's
Have you
great.
have you thought about who you would cast if this was made into a series or movie?
You mean the Black Death?
Yes, or any of your characters.
Oh man, I haven't thought that far. I haven't thought that far about Copycat, because she's such a complex character. I don't know. I don't know. You got me on that question. You got me. Let me think here. Who could play her? I don't know. I'm sorry.
To be fair, it's kind of hard,
It's hard to
because
come to-
sometimes when you do live action casting, it could be a hit or miss. Marvel for the longest have been really killing it with their casting. We don't talk about DC. But it's hard to pick, because if you put all these complexities in the character and all these abilities, it's hard to imagine who is the right person to take on that mantle.
Yeah.
So I could get why you be stuck on that. But where can people find you and your work?
Oh, I'm local here in DC. I'm in Springfield, Virginia. But you can contact me on Instagram at Corey Taylor Art. That's Instagram and on Facebook.
Nice. And remember, you see how you guys glowed from that conversation? Introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Greg Burnham. I'm a writer, co-creator of Tuskegee Airs, The Search for Sadaka, Little Rock Files, lots of stuff. I do some stuff with DC Comics as well.
Oh, awesome. And I've seen your work on social media. People from Blurred Eye View, Fantastic Frankie have spoke about Tuskegee Airs. For those that are not aware of your work, can you tell us a little bit about what that story is about?
It's futuristic sci-fi. Takes place towards the end of this century. We have 5 teenage pilots. They're going to get some cool jets that turn into mechs sometimes, and they'll be the strongest line of defense against this machine army that's trying to take over the world.
That's awesome. What I really like about your work is that it touches on history. It's realistic fiction, and it just highlights, if those are not aware with the Black history, we had the Tuskegee Airmen, who were a group of elite black pilots during World War II. And I just want to thank you for actually educating people on history in such a very unique way. What made you want to write this story?
We were like huge fans of the Tuskegee Airmen, so we just wanted to kind of like put a new skin on it for people that aren't so much aware, tell an entertaining story for young people, but it ended up being for everybody. And then also being able to drop like true, like real little nuggets of history throughout. That was super fun for us as well. I'm a history major, so I love history. The Search for Sadaka is another story I do, and it revolves around the Black Wall Street Massacre and kind of like a young girl that escapes from there and how she's super capable. She's not just a regular person, but she escapes from there and has to go on this really long quest, which builds her into like a superhero. So a lot of the stuff I do, like even I wrote an icon story in the Milestone Initiative for DC, and even in here I put like the flood of 1927, the Great Flood, how it impacted New Orleans, how they bombed the levees. Like so I'm like super into history, and so a lot of times my stories either come from stuff that actually happened to me or really powerful stories that I've seen throughout history.
And I want to thank you for doing that because, as we saw in recent years, our history has been slowly but surely been erased or like being prevented being talked about in the classroom. And I think that you found a way to still keep that alive and bring awareness to what happened to our people. So I thank you so much for that. I was here a little bit earlier and I saw that we had a family that cosplayed as the Tuskegee Heirs, and you were just the smile on your face. I got a picture of it too. Oh yeah, you were just so elated. Like, what is it like to see people cosplay as your characters?
It's unbelievable. Like every time, like Marcus Williams is my co-creator, so he designs the uniforms and everything. But just to see people like that spend that much time and care on some characters that we conjured up out of our brains, it's just amazing. It takes me back to a kid because like I didn't know, we didn't call it cosplay or anything, but I would just figure out how to make the clothes and stuff of like the character who I was pretending to be, when we're playing G.I. Joe or whatever, Star Wars. So like to see people like take the time to actually make these authentic looking costumes based off of some people we created out of our brains, it's amazing. It doesn't matter. Like there was a guy that actually showed me a picture of them, and I think I filed it off like, yeah, that's not really real. You probably photoshopped that. That's AI, And then for them to actually walk up to the table, I'm just like melt. So I'm glad you didn't catch my fan out moment because I don't fan out for anything. Celebrities, I'm cool, but that's just like it's one of the most amazing things that I can ever see.
Yeah, it's a heartfelt moment, and they were not cheap. They look like they put some money into that cosplay, and I can see how it made you feel because it's just like that's when you know that your work is reaching out to people when they take the time to really pay homage to you and what you represent. So take the moment to soak it up. It's okay.
Yeah, I try. I was talking with some other friends, Greg Anderson, LSA, one of my good friends, who's also an amazing writer, and we were talking about that last night, how it's like you can be having like these weird days or be in a funk, and then stuff like that'll happen, and it lets you know how much, like you're impacting people, and you may never even see it. But we write these stories, and we love them, but it's also like work, It's like, oh, I got to do the next one. I had a lady today, she said, I've been looking all over for you. She didn't have a lot of talk for me. She was like, I need this because I love that, And that kind of stuff just really, empowers you to want to keep going, on the days where it feels like, I don't feel like doing this, So it's awesome.
And I'm glad that you're here at your booth. And I was glad able to run into you because again, your work is being talked about so much. What advice do you have for somebody that's coming up in the comic book industry?
So I'll speak to the writing standpoint because that's what I do. Um, you have to write, you have to create. Don't wait for somebody to give you an opportunity. Like try to make your own opportunity as much as you can. And you can do it at whatever pace you want to do it. Like you don't have to be producing stuff every 5 minutes or if you want to be a writer in comics, you gotta write. You have to read, like find out who people say is good and then go look for them. When I got serious and wanted to write comic books, I went and studied David Walker. I found people that I liked myself, but then I was like, I'd ask people, who's the best, blah, blah, blah. But like David Walker, I studied him, Rodney Barnes, Gail Simone is amazing. Like these are people that I just think are amazing. And so when I read their stuff, I'm not just reading for entertainment. It's like they're stretching, imagination, and they're, just so clever with what they're doing. So I use that kind of stuff to try to get better as well. You also got to learn the business. Learning the business is just as important as anything, because if you don't know the business, you won't know what you're supposed to charge. You won't know you won't be able to tell when somebody's lowballing you. So you definitely want to learn that side. And, the printing and the publishing, you learn all those things. So it's like when you do, like with Tuskegee Airs went viral all over the world. There wasn't anything we could do to stop the money from coming. So, but we had already learned about publishing. We had learned about how to make comics and all that stuff. So when our first book came out, it was it was executed pretty well. People loved it. So that's why I say work on all this stuff, because you never know when your opportunity is going to come. And if you have a solid foundation in the business and in the structure, the process of making them, then it can, make it easier. You might even be able to bring something to the table that the people you're working with don't have. So, yeah, it's like, try to be a self-starter and see how far you can get, and if people come and reach up and pull you up, you'll be ready to go.
That's great advice. Remember to do your research, just go for it and just start writing, and that's the best takeaway that we can give to our young people. Where can people find you online?
So Greg Burnham on Facebook for the old people, because I hear you whippersnappers don't use. But IG, it's Greg_7. I'm a little bit on TikTok. I think it's just my name, Greg Burnham, and Twitter, Greg Burnham Books, and I think that's about it. And also, you can do that same thing with Tuskegee Airs, the search for Sadaka. I don't have a page for Little Rock Files yet, but that needs to be rectified.
And see how you guys glowed from that conversation? I'll catch you guys next time. Bye!